Good afternoon. This is the LouRaePodcast. I'm your host, Austin Corris, and today my guest, August Northcut. He is an illustrator, a collaborator, and an artist here in Louisville. August, thank you for coming to the show today.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So you're a local artist. You work with a couple of local companies here. Did you grow up here?
I was born here in Louisville, and then for middle school and high school, I lived in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, nice.
So I guess those formative years of growing up were in Charleston. But I've been back in Louisville since 2014, so I mean, coming up on like a full 10 years now.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. I love Louisville. My family's originally from here, still have some family here, and a lot of good people here too.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really trying to meet as many like-minded people like yourself, too. So tell me more about your family. You actually have two other siblings, and they're both artists as well. So how does that occur?
Well, I've got an older brother and an older sister. We all live in 3 different cities now, but they are all in the arts. My brother's a photographer in New York, and my sister is a portrait artist down in Charleston. She still lives in Charleston. And our mother, I mean, we say we get all of our creative side from our mother. She, our dad famously can't draw a stick figure, kind of thing. He's in real estate, but so he never really understood exactly what we were doing, but he always backed us on it. But yeah, our mom, has experience as a seamstress and interior design and a little bit of like performing arts from back when she was in college. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely got a lot of influence from my older siblings. They're 10 and 15 years older than I am. And it's not that we get to do it all that often, but it is fun whenever we do get to work on projects together.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just three little art kids coming from the same family.
Did you guys support each other growing up? Kind of that collaboration?
Oh yeah. I mean, my sister, she's the eldest, and she used to back when she was in college years, I guess, used to like teach art classes down at a place called Artopia. It's not there anymore, but it was over in St. Matthews. I think LVA ran it, and after school and stuff, like when my parents were working, I would just go and hang out there and like sit in on classes for free, whether it was drawing classes or painting or clay making and stuff. And so, she sort of facilitated my babysitting at times, and I was just surrounded by kids and grown-ups making art, and she taught me a whole lot. So we've always been big supporters of each other. We're very close.
Yeah. Did that push you towards the Savannah College of Art and Design?
That was an influence for sure. My brother went there when he went there for college, and I mean, also at the time I was living in Charleston, and it was, Savannah was right down the road, and it was like really good school. So, and I knew Tommy, that's my brother, he had gone. So, and to tell you the truth, it was kind of one of the only schools of the few schools that I applied to, it was one of the only ones that I actually got into. So, but no, I mean, that's no bash on anything else, but it's like, I was happy to go there. It was a cool city to live and study in.
Did you originally go for performing arts?
Yes, that's right. I did a lot of theater in high school, and I had a really good mentor, director in high school, Randy Neal, and he sort of pushed me in that direction. And I did some local theater with Pure Theater, which is a really great company in Charleston. And so at the time, I mean, I did art throughout, ever since I could pick up a pencil, but I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to go to school for. I didn't want like studying it to ruin it for me. It was like, this is just what I do for fun. And I did art shows, and I helped like put art shows together when I was in high school, but I wasn't sure how serious I wanted to take it, I guess. And theater, for whatever reason, I was like, yeah, I could study this. So I auditioned for like a scholarship, and I got the scholarship for SCAD. via an audition, not a portfolio. And after the first semester, I mean, again, no offense to anybody, but I was like, there were, other kids there who had a different perspective of what it meant to be a theater kid or an actor, And I was like, I don't know if I could spend 4 years with these people.
Oh, really?
It was on a different level than I was. And so I switched my major to illustration. And then I started dabbling in printmaking and made that my minor. And ultimately, I'm very glad I did that. It paid off, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, it definitely shows. Do you feel like any of that old performance that you used to have kind of comes out in your art? Do you feel like it's a performance in a way?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I have done in the past, like with friends or other artists, I guess some more like performative based art, like live art with music that's a little more than just sitting there and painting at an easel. I mean, I think having my experience on stage sort of excited an interest to kind of play around with that. I mean, those were always fun and weird, and I usually had no idea what the audience felt about it because I was just like tunnel visioned in on whatever we were doing and, throwing paint around and throwing pieces of paper at the people in the audience and just having weird synth music going on in the background. Like that kind of stuff was always really fun to do. I mean, as far as I consider that like in my regular day-to-day work, I guess, maybe not so directly, but certainly, I mean, what influences me a lot is more performance-based artwork anyway, whether it's music or film or a play, that it's those types of artworks or works that inspire my visual artwork, usually more so than other visual artwork. So I don't know. It's all considered, I guess, in some way.
Yeah, and that kind of comes out in your art pieces, really, because you go from so many different kinds of subjects. You have like a bit of graffiti-esque art, or with your Instagram page, you have lots of different kinds of pen illustrations. You do portraiture for Kentucky to the World. So they all do kind of come together like that. Do you find that difficult? Do they all just kind of stream out of you? Do you ever agonize over what to paint or what to draw, anything like that?
I mean, the hardest thing for me usually is staying focused on one thing. I mean, as you pointed out, like, I guess like media and style to a certain extent tend to range, and it's because I am interested in all these different approaches and visual aesthetics that it's hard for me to like start a thing or a series and like just stick with that to completion before I get ADD and start something else. And it could be totally different. And I guess on one hand, like, it could sort of be considered a little hindering depending on what I'm trying to do, because it takes a lot to get into the mood of, I mean, like this piece over here, the way that I would work on that thing, I guess, was sort of like performance based in my own way, and it's big and messy and a lot of fun. And then, well, okay, I need to take a break from that, so now I'm going to work on this like 8x10 technical pen drawing. Totally different, but it's like I need a break from this. But then, then it kind of becomes hard to get back in the mindset of finishing that or whatever. I mean, I love a deadline. I mean, I hate a deadline, but I appreciate a deadline. And I do appreciate a commission, because when left to my own devices, I'll go all over the place. And I think, but that it becomes part of the relationship that I have with the work that I'm making, is it is ever evolving. I mean, that thing technically was started. I mean, there are things on that canvas that you can see that I painted 8 years ago, and it just becomes painting on top of painting on top of painting until eventually I'm like, okay, now it starts to make sense to me. It's like, I mean, not to be too corny about it, but it's like, it is very much a dialogue, and it changes. And my intention going into it will change over time. And depending on what I'm listening to or what I've been watching lately or reading lately, we're like, oh, that's kind of a fun idea to kind of weave into that. Or it's a sketch that takes, you know, a day or two to concept, put on paper, and then I spend however many hours doing the sort of mindless hatching, and, you know, like, it's like, okay, cool, I can like listen to a podcast while I work on this, or get in the total zone or whatever to fully envelop the mood to try to work on something totally different. So I'm, you know, it's like the jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I sort of envy artists who have like a very like, you know, convicted like intention to that kind of stick with I don't know, a style or a mode, and really like master it. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I just get bored with it too quick. So I need to change it up. I need to try something different. And then you just get a mess of random stuff.
It almost sounds like you're describing like a partnership with the pieces that you create, where it almost tells you when it's finished and you constantly tweak and work with it and kind of build upon like a relationship that you have with it.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe in part because a lot of the times I really don't know what I'm doing, so I need it to tell me what it's doing, and I just like respond to it. You know, again, with things like, because you know I'm a freelance illustrator, so like there's only so much loosey goosey stuff that I can afford when I'm working for a client.
For sure.
So, you know, I work with them to try to get an image that they are happy with, and then I execute it in my own way. But when again, like when it's just me doing it for fun, I usually don't really know what I'm doing, whether it's technically or emotionally or and so I have to really pay attention to what is happening, so that I can do my best job to justify why we're doing this, why I'm sitting in front of a canvas in the first place. And then, you know, after all that, that's when the title comes. And the title for the piece has to do with what it is in that moment. Could be, I mean, it's a lot of the paintings, you look on the back of them and there's like a half dozen or a dozen like stand-in titles of like, this is what this means to me right now, you know? And then a week later or a month later or a year later, it's like, this is what this means to me now. And, you know, it changes and evolves, and it is like a partnership.
Yeah, you really see that when you do look at the back of these pieces. It's almost like a separate piece that you get to see, like an uncovering of a mystery, or makes you ask more questions about it. So whenever I look at the portraiture that you do for like Kentucky to the World, I notice that with a lot of portrait work, I find that people make people look better than they really are. They give them an almost kind of filter to them. But with you, I feel like you kind of capture people in a very realistic sense. You strip back any of unnecessary attributes one might add to it, and you really show a stark contrast of who that person is. Is that intentional, or do you find that you just have a natural capability to capture people in that way?
That's interesting. So when I started doing those portraits, maybe 7 years ago now, that really was not in my purview of work. I mean, I still wouldn't really call myself like a portrait artist, really by any means, but I really had to sort of learn on the spot. Like, you know, I had done like, because we were trying to make very simple, like almost caricature, but not comedically illustrations for these people. and I had to learn sort of a technique to do it relatively quickly, because back then I was doing them every week, and I really had to like learn on the spot that type of illustration, that type of like reference rendering. And over time, I mean, if you look at them, you will see a like, I don't know whether it's getting better or just getting different, or figuring out a way to quickly be more detailed, or I don't know, afford more information to the drawing itself. That I mean, I've enjoyed doing it for them that way, or having that reason to do that, to learn how to do that. But I always do the tech pen, and I like what it affords as far as like making something that's smooth look, delicate, even though the lines are rough, or sort of vice versa, having, like creating texture that's their hair or their beard or whatever, and with a trick of the pen. But the point I think that you sort of brought up of like capturing their trueness, I still feel like I always stylize them a little bit. Again, they used to be way more stylized, but I got to the point where I was like, I just have to do this in X amount of strokes, and however it informs itself, it will. But like, I had a friend of mine a long time ago, well, not that long ago, but an old friend of mine, he saw one of those drawings and he was like, dude, you gave them crow's feet. Like some people have wrinkles, like, and that's part of what they look like, and that's part of who they are. So I don't know, just, I guess trying to stay true to what I'm looking at while highlighting little parts that to me seem to represent their personality the most, whether it's their eyes or their smile. Like I stylize all of that a little bit, and I try to get it right so it still looks like them, but also, I don't know, affords a highlight on who they are, even though it's still just a little black and white pen drawing.
Seems like you deal with like a lot of these chaotic forces and thoughts, and kind of what you want to get out of the art and what you want people to see from it. Is there anything that inspires you to focus on something? I remember I read your Marquee article, and I'm just going to quote it here. Music moves August to pick up a pen for his own passions more than anything else. Can you go more into that? Does that kind of fuel what I was talking about earlier?
Yeah, totally. I mean, as I sort of mentioned, about like the art forms that inspire me, but music is definitely the heaviest, or like the most inspiring as itself, but also like most of what, I don't know, where I get ideas from or whatever, usually comes from or like filtered through music. I mean, it's pretty classic, like music is my life kind of thing. But like, I don't make music. I don't know how to make music. I'll have a lot of musician friends, but like, I think there's a little bit of a magic or mystique, not mystique, but like kind of an X factor to music, because I don't understand it technically, like on a technical level, that I feel like as maybe lends itself to why I can really think of it more abstractly than perhaps, say, like a lot of my musician friends. They'll hear something and they can critique it on a technical level, and I can't really do that. But I can relate to that as far as like being an artist and like knowing what I know about how a painting is made or whatever. Like when I look at a painting, I will sometimes like critique it on the brush strokes, not on the overall image. But I don't have that handicap or that downfall, I guess, when listening to music. So it very much is just like, I like it because I like the way it sounds, and I don't know how it's made, and that's fine. But yeah, I've always listened to a whole lot of music. I got my headphones in pretty much all day, unless I'm talking to somebody. And the visual component of music, whether it's like the colors of the guitars or the, or the lyrics, sure, but like some of my favorite songs, I don't even know what the lyrics are. The voice plays as another instrument. And some songs, the lyrics are hugely important, and they read like poetry, and that also inspires like, the images or the visuals or the subject matters that I kind of want to focus on. I mean, recently I've been working on these little rat drawings, all because I just had a playlist of songs that are about rats. And so I don't have any out yet, but like putting a playlist together, a mixtape or whatever, of songs about rats. That's the only theme. Every song is different. Every song interprets or uses the rat as a metaphor in a different way. And then you line all that up and you have yourself like a book's worth of disjointed metaphors or ideas or visuals that you can play with under some motif, and then you translate that into a drawing that then becomes its own interpretation of it.
Speaking of books of inspiration and metaphors and things like that, you've recently published a book with your brother Thomas called The Nod, right?
That's right. That was the product of COVID, really, of being stuck at home, having no jobs. I mean, he and I both, he's a freelance photographer, I'm a freelance illustrator. 2020 sucked for everybody. And I guess something did come up with him. There's a like sport and culture, sort of like underground sport and culture magazine called Victory Journal that he's done some stuff for. And they had reached out to him about doing a little thing for their upcoming issue that was going to be a big issue because I think it was like almost a whole year that they didn't put anything out because of COVID. So they were doing a double issue, and they asked if he wanted to submit some stuff for it, and they asked if I wanted to collaborate, and because he and I had done a little collaboration like the year before, and they're like, "You guys want to submit something? Come up with the story that sort of befits their theme." And we were like, well, we both have histories in skateboarding, just for fun, not on any sort of professional level, but like, let's do something kind of like that. He had a bunch of old photos he had just uncovered, like old negatives and stuff. I was like, yeah, I'll do drawings for those. So we submitted them like 5 pages, and they're like, these are cool. Do you want to just keep going? And we're like, yeah, sure. So we ended up just doing our whole, a whole book on our own. It is like co-published by them, but it's under this thing called Victory Editions, which is like their art book department or whatever. But they let us do whatever we wanted. So we're talking about like, what is this book going to be about? And there's this thing that he and I refer to as the nod, which is something that everyone experiences with the people that they're close to and the people that they know. And it's just like when you know someone so well and you're trying to explain something, whether any sort of emotion or tell a story, and you can't quite figure out exactly how to say it, and it's like, I know what you're trying to say. You don't have to talk anymore. You don't need to use any more words. I know where you're coming from, and you know that I know that I get it, and that's the nod, So hopefully everyone gets to experience those moments with people they're close to. So that's what the whole book is about, through the lens of skateboarding a little bit, but we kind of veered off from that. There's a lot of pictures of skateboards in there, but like, it's just this type of stuff that we knew that we would get into with our friends who we shared that unspoken language with. So really, it's more of an art book about friendship, really, and connectedness. We did that, got it, we had a deadline at first, so we like banged it out, and then we're like, well, we still can't have a launch party because we're still like in COVID times. So it afforded us to like spend a lot of time with getting the book right, sort of like doing promotional stuff for a launch party when we were eventually going to have it, having posters made, and all this other stuff. Then we did a launch party in Brooklyn in January of, was it 2021? No, it was 2022 was when we finally launched it. And then 2022 in July here, we did another launch party for all of the Louisville people who couldn't make it to New York. And that one was like kind of big. We did it at Portal. We had bands playing. We did like these 3D installations. Like we really like kind of decked it out. So that was like a big project, like a big personal collaboration that was something like I hadn't done in a long time, or really nothing quite exactly like it. But that was a lot of fun for me and Tommy to do. And now we still are talking about when the three of us, including bringing our sister on, to do a full sibling collaboration book or something.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see it. I like the Knot a lot. It was a nice little look into not only like community, but a little bit of family, kind of like the American experience during those kind of unknown times. It was an interesting look into kind of all those facets of life during those very strange times. So you have a lot of experience doing like kind of collaboration work, whether it be commissioned pieces, working with businesses, working with other artists, say. How does an artist, if you could give any like advice for anybody starting out, how do you ingratiate yourselves in a new artistic community, whether it might be Charleston or a college life campus, kind of things like that? How do you get good at collaborating?
I mean, first of all, wanting or needing to do something, needing to make something, that's already a given for any type of artist, whether you work completely by yourself or not. You got to have that drive, and then furthermore have the the appreciation for, and the keenness to recognizing that other people know how to do things that you don't. And if you like working with people, then why not take advantage of that resource? I mean, it starts with just going to like Wednesday night network nights. I mean, that's why I'm still in Louisville, is because when I came back after college, that was supposed to be temporary. Sure enough, it was a Wednesday night thing. A friend of mine knew that I was an artist, told me I should go check out this little group of people who get together every Wednesday to just do that, to talk about what projects they're doing. I mean, there were photographers, there were musicians, there were, apparel people, like, and it was very close, but I didn't know any of them. And I only kind of knew the person who told me to go. And I was like, well, yeah, go. I got nothing else to do. Or even if you do have something else to do, if it's something you're thirsting for, just go. And I lucked out, and I met a ton of amazing people, some of whom have become like my best friends, and I still work with today and play with today, who have taught me a lot, shown me a lot, like helped me get gigs, helped support me. And you have to luck out a little bit, but you have to just sort of like be willing to appreciate what other people are doing. And if other people want to expand on what they're doing and you want to expand on what you're doing, just join forces, because you'll force yourself to come up with something that you wouldn't have otherwise thought. I mean, just like the Nod, the book, like I did stuff, like I applied my skills in a way that I don't normally do. And I think Tommy might say the same thing about like how we've had to force ourselves into a new way of thinking because we're working with somebody else who's just as excited. But if you're just thinking about working for yourself, then just do a solo show. But if you want to have to learn a new language a little bit, just go talk to other artists. And I think there are more artists out there that are more willing to collaborate than they would even, put themselves out to be, because, it's nervous to, impose yourself on someone else to say, let's do something together. I think more people are open to it than not. I mean, some people definitely aren't, and I understand. I totally get that, because I definitely need to do my own stuff as well, but I just really enjoy the process of working with other people to come up with something that I would normally think about.
Right. And we at the gallery, we completely agree with that. Every Wednesday, we have artists come by and try to collaborate, whether it be for fashion shows, whether it be for material guidance or any kind of advice. That's what we encourage. We want that kind of community building in the city.
I know, that's what's so dope about this.
Right, exactly. We want to build somewhere where artists feel comfortable coming together, feel like they have a support system, like a safe spot to just completely, you know, go against the wall and really show who they are and what they want to share with the world.
Yeah, I know. That's why I got so excited when Michael was telling me about this place. Like, it's not just a look; it's to do also, and I'm excited about for you guys for that.
Yeah, we're really trying to kind of redefine the space here in the city and make it more available for younger artists and older artists as well who have been in the scene for a while, and get them together and kind of create something new from that. So for you, do you have any goals that you're working towards right now? Any dreams that you're kind of thinking about?
I mean, I want to work on these rat paintings or drawings rather. I will say there was a dry spell for a while where I really was not doing a whole lot for myself, just doing client work, which is usually great. I am working on some projects with some clients that I'm particularly excited about, kind of ongoing things. And I don't know, I sort of have a project list for this year that I'm looking forward to trying to make happen. I mean, ultimately, like, it's just sort of taking things one chunk of projects at a time. Outside of that, you know, I was just sort of talking to my brother recently. It kind of just the spark came up again of wanting to do another The Nod or whatever. And like, we had very brief conversations with our sister Beth about like what the three of us, what that could look like. And I would like to revisit that and really get something going with the three of them, because I mean, people like ask us, I feel like pretty often when they're like, oh, all three of you are artists, like, do you guys run a business together or something? Like no, but like we should collaborate more than we do. But we're all full working artists doing our own things, but like, yeah, the three of us really inspire each other, and we need to make something happen like that.
Well, I know the perfect place to launch your book when it comes out.
Dude, for real, this is a good spot.
Well, to close out, do you have any words of advice or any kind of tips for like new coming artists or people just getting into the scene here? What does Louisville offer? What kind of advice can you offer?
I mean, again, like, it's as we were just sort of touching on, like, it's, and maybe this is the commercial artist in me talking, I guess. I mean, finding inspiration in making work is obviously the most important thing, because otherwise you don't need to be an artist if that's not the process that you're interested in doing. If you have to have that drive to just make stuff. But outside of just making things, I just really encourage people to try to get involved in their art community, meeting people. And it doesn't all have to be like, I mean, depending on what you're trying to do, but it's not like you got to go out there and throw a bunch of business cards around. I just mean meeting people and other artists is going to inspire you, make you consider approaches and ideas that you probably won't just come up with on your own. It's less about the like networking from a business standpoint, and more of just like talk to other artists who are doing things, look at their work and like talk to them, humbly or whatever. And don't be afraid to show off your stuff, but like gaining ideas from other people is, I think, hugely important. And finding, ask around too about where do you go hang out with other artists. LouRae's got Wednesday night, like meet and greet nights or whatever. All right, cool. Go to those. And if everyone you meet is whack, then okay, go somewhere else. But like, chances are you're gonna connect with someone that is of interest to you and is interested in you, and that helps, fill your well up so that you can dish it out. There are a lot of artists in this town, and I'm seeing now more galleries and spaces like this sort of popping up, and it's encouraging to see, but I also know that it requires that participation from the community, from the artists themselves, and from those facilitating it. And it's easy to not have to feel like you have to go do all of that, because Louisville it's the pro and con of Louisville, or the blessing and the curse. Like, it's very easy to live here. It's very easy to be comfortable. And on one hand, it's like, okay, you have no excuse to not be making stuff. You have no excuse to not be putting yourself out there, because it is so easy to live here. But on the other hand, it's like, well, I don't really need to. I can just sort of like half-ass it and just sit at home. So I don't know, take advantage of the resources that are here, and that's the only thing that's going to move you forward in any sort of creative pursuit.
That's great advice. If you wanted to find more of August's work, you can follow him on Instagram, Random Dream Tree. Oh my gosh.
I knew it.
I practiced it.
Random Dream Tectonic Tree.
Random Dream Tectonic Tree.
Which once you make it halfway through that word, it'll probably autofill. Anyway.
You can find him on Instagram at Random Dream Tectonic Tree. We also have his pieces here at the gallery. You can stop by anytime during the week, 11 to 3, except for Sunday and Monday. Follow us on Instagram at LouRae611. August, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Dude, awesome. Thanks so much.